it's time to sit back and relax with your favorite drink. And listen. Bloodsuckers. A college senior suspects that vampires are behind the recent disappearances, but his roommate is too busy with his girlfriend to pay attention, so he decides to solve the mystery by himself. October had arrived. The wind had a hint of the approaching winter. The days had started to fall short. People had not yet started to react to this change, but the sun went down as early as 5 o'clock, and it was almost at the horizon that day when Ahmed, Vikram and Nina were sitting in a restaurant killing their time. Ahmed Qureshi and Vikram Singh were college seniors, roommates and best friends, and they were going to be graduates that year. Nina Kravosos was Vikram's girlfriend. She wasn't from college. Vikram had met her in a club that Ahmed had taken him to. Vikram was an orphan. He'd managed to get a scholarship to go to college, but there was no way he could afford a livelihood like that, but Ahmed always forced him to come with him. He had his parents' money, so he didn't care. He just didn't want to be alone. At first, Nina was not so interested in Vikram, but the fact that he was an orphan brought them together. Nina didn't have a father. She lived with her mother and aunt. That bonded Nina and Vikram together very soon. Ahmed always just tagged along. All three of them enjoyed each other's company, and they were talking about the upcoming Halloween party. "So, who are you two going as?" Nina asked in her squeaky voice, flipping her shiny dark hair and looking at Vikram and Ahmed with her small black eyes. "I haven't decided yet. I still have my costume from last year. I'll trade it off with someone," Vikram replied in his heavy voice. He sat right beside Nina. "No, you are not," Ahmed interrupted. "You're not wearing someone's old costume. We're going shopping next Sunday." "Why? It's just for one night and everyone's going to be too drunk to notice anyway," Vikram argued. "Yeah, I mean, it isn't just like every day for you guys. You guys are drunk after sundown anyway. This one evening you're going to be in costumes. I mean, it's Halloween," Nina added. "Oh, you take that back." Ahmed pretended to be offended. "What?" "Oh, you hurt his feelings. Halloween night is probably his favorite night," Vikram said, smiling. "He's into ghosts, horror, and stuff like that." "Oh, I'm sorry. What I'm trying to say is Vikram is right. No, he doesn't say it. He doesn't like it when you spend too much money on him. It makes him feel like he's in your debt." "What? Come on, man. You're not in debt. You don't have to pay me back. You're my brother, but okay, I get it." "Oh, well, that's settled. Yeah, I wish I could come to the party," Nina said hopefully. "Maybe you can," Ahmed replied. "Are guests allowed on campus?" "Oh, no, but we can sneak you in." "Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to be dressed. Nobody will find out," Vikram added. "Are you guys sure?" Yeah, don't worry." "Okay, great." Nina looked at her watch and turned to Vikram. "We should get going." "Already?" Vikram asked. "Where are you guys going?" asked Ahmed. "We've decided to have dinner with Nina's parents." "He means my mom and my aunt. My two moms." "Yeah, they're your parents, sweetheart. Come on, let's go, shall we?" They paid the bill and walked out of the restaurant. It wasn't very cold, but still it made Vikram shiver even though he was wearing a jacket. Ahmed was wearing a long-sleeved shirt, but still he put his hands in his pockets to shield them from the cold. "I might be late," Vikram started. "Yeah, I'll leave the door unlocked, and don't worry, I'll probably be awake by then," Ahmed interjected. Oh, please don't waste your time on these chat rooms again," Vikram said. "What chat rooms?" Nina asked. She was listening in. "I want to be Detective Ahmed here. Wastes his time chatting with others like him trying to solve unsolved cases." "What? That's, Yeah, I know, right? Some of them even believe that they're a vampire." "Vikram, can I talk to you for a moment?" Ahmed dragged Vikram aside. "Listen, I know you don't take this seriously, but it's not a joke. Okay, I'll admit some of these people are crazy, and there's probably nothing unnatural going on, but Those disappearances are real. I'm worried. So, don't walk alone, okay? Take a cab. Here, keep this money. Ahmed tried to hand him a few hundred, and Vikram made a face that reminded Ahmed of what Nina had said earlier. Come on. You're my brother. Take care. Remember, don't walk, take a cab. And he waved goodbye to Vikram and Nina, and came back to his room in the campus dormitory. The very first thing he did as he entered was the same thing that Vikram had told him not to do. He switched on his computer and logged into the chat room. As expected, a discussion was already going on. He scrolled up to read some of the unread messages. Most of them were just greetings and unimportant. A few of the important ones read, "So, how do they survive subtropical cities like ours? Oh, maybe they've adapted to this climate. It's not like they have to come out in the sun. They could just stay hidden. Right, and if they're masquerading as humans, they'd probably be doing it at some place more similar to their natural habitat, like an ice cream factory or any other place like that. Makes sense. If there are many of them, they could all easily cover for each other." Ahmed read all those messages, and they made him furious. He typed, "Hey guys, so you've straight up established that vampires are behind these disappearances. I mean, it could be a serial killer. It could be an underground network harvesting human organs. We have to look into every possibility. You guys are just making up stories to thrill yourselves." Someone replied to Ahmed, "I thought we already discussed that." Someone else added, "We are looking at every possibility. Right now we're discussing this one." And the messages kept on coming one after another. Ahmed read silently for a minute. "And the FBI did find some bodies early on, and they were intact. I know it could still be a serial killer, but there's no underground network harvesting human organs." "Yeah, my dad's in the force. He said even the blood was removed surgically, with a syringe and all." At that, Ahmed quickly typed in, "So, if they are vampires, can't they just directly suck the blood from the victim's body? Why would they use a syringe?" "Isn't it clear? They want to throw the police off their trail." "God, are you even thinking?" Someone replied. "Are you?" Ahmed typed again. "Why would they care about that? The police at most would think it was done by some animal. They don't know about vampires." "They do," the kid whose father was in the police replied. "My dad said there's a rumor that some people in the department know about that stuff. He said they're a hidden organization or something, which asks these people to work on these cases. But it's just a rumor. Even I don't believe it." "Hey, you said police found some bodies. Where did they find them?" "My dad said they found them by the river in the old city. They must have washed up on the shore." "Yeah, old city. That's the perfect dumping ground. They probably don't even have to throw them in the river. Nobody could find a body in those streets, even if it started to smell." "Wait, there's no factory in the old city, is there?" "No," Ahmed replied. "Some small-scale setups, but no factory." "Guys, we're getting nowhere with this. We need more information, more clues." "I have an idea. Why don't we go look by the river? There must be some clue or evidence. What do you guys say?" "I'm on board. We'll finally meet up." "I'm not sure, but we gotta do something." Ahmed waited a few seconds, and then he typed in, "Yeah, okay. Let's do this." They all decided to meet up next Saturday and look by the river for clues. Ahmed went to bed about half an hour before Vikram came back. He was still at Nina's place finishing up his dinner. "Thank you for the delicious food, Mrs. Krovosos," Vikram said to Nina's mother just before leaving. "Oh, no, thank you for coming," she replied. "It was lovely to meet you." Nina's mother was probably in her 40s, but she still looked just as young as Nina, and so did her sister, Nina's aunt, who looked at Nina and said, "Nina, I love this boy even though he didn't take his jacket off after I asked him 3 times. I wanted to see his biceps." At that, Vikram's cheeks went red. "Oh, they're not great. I don't work out, and I didn't feel like taking my jacket off. I wasn't feeling that hot. Oh, of course you weren't. You were sitting with Nina. You should have sat next to me. And she laughed her lungs off. Okay. Nina's mother started speaking. It was a wonderful evening. You should come more often. What are you doing Saturday night? Nothing. Nina spoke up before Vikram. Perfect. Nina, honey, bring him home on Saturday. Okay, done. Well, Vikram couldn't handle that amount of love. He'd grown up in an orphanage and wasn't used to this. He could barely speak up. Thank you, Mrs. Kravosus. I can't say... Mom, help him. Oh, don't mention it, dear. Now you should head back. It's getting late. Then Vikram said good night to everyone, promised to come on Saturday, and left. The moment he left, Nina hopefully looked at her mother and her aunt. So, what do you think? Nina's aunt hopped to her feet, clapping her hands. Oh, he's perfect. I love him. The next morning, Ahmed got up early. He was making coffee when he saw Vikram's bed was empty, though it looked like he'd slept there. Ahmed was just wondering where he'd go so early in the morning when Vikram walked in, still sleepy and with a handbag which was probably Nina's. Oh, where have you been to? Ahmed said, looking at the handbag. Oh, it's Nina's. She left it at the restaurant yesterday. My phone was in there too, Vikram replied. He put the handbag on the table right next to the entrance and went back to his bed and fell onto it, and within minutes he was snoring. Ahmed took his cup of coffee and switched on the computer again. He logged into the chat room and found a few more unread messages. He started reading them while drinking his coffee. Hey, did someone say the police have found some bodies? Do we know who they were? No, the police couldn't identify them, but they looked like they were homeless people living on the streets. Ah, that's perfect. Whoever's behind this, they're targeting people whom nobody will miss, nobody would look for. Yeah, they're taking the poor homeless or orphans. We don't even know how many they've taken already. Oh, maybe we'll find something on Saturday. Yeah, see you guys then. When it was time to go to college, Ahmed switched off the computer and went to get ready. Vikram woke up and got ready too. They both left the college together. In the evening, Ahmed was again on the computer, but nobody had come online or left any messages. Vikram, who was out, came back, so Ahmed quickly switched the tab. Hey, what's up? Ahmed asked. Nothing, Vikram said exhaustively, and plunged into a chair. I was waiting for you. I got you something. Ahmed picked up a package and threw it towards Vikram, who caught it and began opening it. What is it? Did you get me a costume already? No, we're going to go for that on Sunday, remember? Vikram opened the package and saw a pair of blue sneakers fall out. What? I was feeling bad about you losing your shoes that night, so I got you a new pair. You didn't have to. Those were already worn out. I was going to buy a new pair anyway. Well, now you don't have to. Thanks, man. Yeah, and you don't have to pay me back. I know. You think I can't appreciate a gift? Okay, then. Come on, I'm starving. Let's go eat. When Saturday arrived, most of the students had left for the holidays. The Festival of Lights was approaching, and only a few of them had stayed for the Halloween party, and Ahmed and Vikram were among them. Ahmed logged into the chat room every day, but no one else had said anything. They were all offline since the last time. Ahmed was furious. They were all just pretending to be worried about the disappearances, wanting to solve them. They must have left for the holidays too, bailed on the chance that they'd got. That evening, Ahmed was sitting in the room thinking about going to the river alone, when Vikram walked in. Dude, put on a shirt. Nina's coming. So what? Nothing, it's not good manners. Ahmed put on a shirt. Hey, Nina, Ahmed said as soon as she walked in. She was wearing an overcoat, but her heels implied that she must have been wearing a dress underneath. Hey, what's up there? Oh, hi, sweetie, said Vikram and pecked her on the cheek. Here's your handbag. Oh, thanks, and can I borrow your phone? Mine's dead again. Again, did you try charging it sometimes? Vikram said, playfully handing over his phone. Okay, here. You go ahead. I'll be right there. I just have to wear the shoes. Ahmed, who was waiting for Nina to go out, looked at Vikram mischievously. Oof, someone's going to be lucky tonight. Nothing like that. I'm having dinner with her family, Vikram replied while putting on his new sneakers. Oh, you poor guy. I don't want to leave you alone for the holidays, but that's the only way you'll have the room to yourself. Don't worry about it. Besides, I like her. I don't want to rush. Okay, see you later. Vikram waved goodbye and walked out. Little did he know that he would never see Ahmed again. Let's go, he said to Nina, who was waiting for him outside. Wait, you got your handbag and my phone, right? Yeah, Nina said, patting the pocket of her overcoat. Ahmed was just waiting for Vikram to leave. He quickly dressed and left the room. On his way out, he saw Nina's handbag on the table. Oh, that girl is dumb as hell, he said. It's a good thing she's pretty. He reached the river in the old city. It was dark, which hadn't been his plan, but he had to wait for Vikram to leave. He started walking in the mud. Well, it looked like a waste management site. There was so much garbage it was impossible to see anything, especially in the dark, and the stench almost made him throw up. He kept looking in the light of his phone's flash. He was also scared. If it was the dumping site, there was a slight chance that whoever was behind all this could show up to dump another body. He soon realized that one person couldn't look through the miles of garbage alone, but he didn't realize that he wasn't the one in danger, even though he was scared. No. The one who wasn't scared at all and was in grave danger was Vikram. He was sitting on the couch with Nina in her living room, while her mother and aunt were in the kitchen preparing the dinner. Nina was playing with Vikram, who was a little nervous but was still responding. Are you sure we can't help them? He asked. Don't worry about it, Nina replied, pulling herself closer to him, and before Vikram could say anything else, she kissed him. Well, Vikram was worried that her mother and aunt could walk in on them at any second, but after a few seconds of Nina's lips passionately pressing against his, he gave up. Nina was now nibbling in his ear. She made her way down his neck, on his left side, and Vikram felt an intense wave of pain spreading through his body from 2 fresh wounds on his neck. Then he screamed. Vikram tried to scream, but no sound came out. He was out of breath. He tried to stand up, but he couldn't move his muscles. Nina then let go of his neck, and Vikram saw her face. She had been completely transformed. She was staring at Vikram with her red eyes, with elliptical pupils, and was flickering her forked tongue. Vikram felt a wave of terror travel through his body. That was the last thing he felt because his whole body then went numb. Nina saw this and smiled. She knew that her prey wasn't going anywhere now. She turned her head towards the kitchen and hissed. Her mother and aunt came, flickering their tongues. One of them, Vikram couldn't tell which one, pushed a needle into his vein. He saw blood running out of his body through a tube with the corner of his eye. He didn't feel anything and certainly couldn't do anything to stop it. He was just praying that someone would come and save him, but there was nobody to save him. He soon started to lose consciousness. It's almost done, sweetheart, Nina began. I know you must be thinking what's happening right now. Perhaps you should have listened to your friend. Vikram couldn't see anything. Darkness had filled his vision and his mind. He could only hear Nina's voice, which felt like it was coming from afar. She was laughing. Oh, it's been a long time since we had a good meal. I mean, those malnutritioned homeless scum, barely any blood in their bodies. We had to take extra care with your case. That damned phone of yours could have gotten us in trouble. I had to make sure you could never bring that thing here. I had to lose my favorite handbag for it, but it was worth it. The remaining blood and life drained out of Vikram's body soon enough. The last thing he could think of was Ahmed. He hoped with his dying breath that maybe he would figure it out somehow, that he would do something, but Ahmed had no clue. That night when Ahmed returned to his room, Vikram still hadn't come back. He thought that maybe Vikram was staying at Nina's. The next morning Ahmed tried calling him, but found out that he'd left his phone there in Nina's handbag. He waited all day for him to return. When night approached, he started getting worried, and by Monday morning when he was sitting in the police station, he realized that he might never see his friend again. The police couldn't find him. They tried looking for a girl named Nina, but they couldn't find anyone. They also tried tracing Vikram's location history by his phone, but the phone had never been to Nina's place. The case turned cold just like all the other cases of disappearances. The police weren't even convinced that anything had happened to Vikram. Who was to say that he hadn't just left everything behind to start a new life? After all, he wouldn't be the first orphan to do so. Ahmed didn't go home for the holidays. He spent his days and nights scrutinizing the riverside. He couldn't sleep. He couldn't eat. He couldn't think about anything else except that if he'd just been a little more cautious, if he'd just paid attention, he could have saved his friend. It was all his mistake. He wanted him to get away so he could play the little game of investigation, his fantasy. He was now sure that there weren't any vampires in the city. How could he have thought something crazy like that? He knew that his best friend must have fallen prey to the foul ways of the crime world. And there was nothing he could do about it. After about 2 weeks, Ahmed was finally ready to go home. There were still a few days left for the festival, and his parents had kept on insisting. He agreed to go just because he didn't want to be alone. He was just wandering by the riverside. He was leaving the next day, but he couldn't stop himself from going there one last time. He was just walking aimlessly around when he spotted something in the pile of garbage. He jumped at it. It was now literally rolling in the mud, but he didn't care. It was stuck in the mud. Ahmed dug around it and pulled it out. And when he realized what it was, he started crying. Tears streamed from his eyes. The pain was unbearable. He was wailing like a wounded animal. He picked it up in his mud-covered hands and kept looking at it with tears in his eyes. It was a blue sneaker. The Kravosos family. Arjun tries to solve the mystery of bloodless bodies, which everyone at first thought was the work of vampires, but turns out to be something else. It was a serene night, calm, peaceful and lonely. It was a beautiful night to go out. There was no traffic or pollution, no honking of the loud horns, no smoke polluting the air. It was a fresh, healthy and clear night. It was a night to take a walk on a lonely, long road, dimly lit by dingy streetlights and the clear sky filled with hundreds and thousands of stars, twinkling as if they were giggling. It was a lovely, romantic night. "Oh, I had a great time tonight," said Nina, who was half drunk and was leaning on Raj's shoulder. Raj was looking at both of Nina's stuffed-into-high heels feet to make sure she didn't trip or something, and was talking to her. "Yeah, me too. Thank you for walking me home. Well, I wasn't going to let you walk by yourself." They were walking to Nina's home after a dinner date. They had met each other in a bar just a couple of days ago. Raj was a businessman. He ran a small business in Metro City, and he was really handsome and quite wealthy, but that wasn't the reason why Nina had decided to go out with him. No, Raj lived alone. He'd walked out of his parents' house after they'd had a huge fight. He'd never tried to contact them after that, nor did his parents. He'd been living all by himself for the past 5 years. Well, he rarely made any friends, and that's why Nina chose him. Nobody knew that Raj was out on a date tonight. Nobody Raj worked with knew anything about a girl named Nina, and, most importantly, nobody would look for him if he went missing tonight. A few days later, Dr. Gautam Vishwas was about to finish his shift in the mortuary. He was writing the report on the post-mortem examination of the body of a young man that was discovered the day before near the riverbank. It was late at night, and there was rarely anyone there. The doctor was busy in his work when somebody entered the office. It was a man, tall, square-faced, with small eyes, wearing a blue-green-white checkered shirt and jeans with leather shoes. The doctor stopped working and looked at the man, who walked up to his desk. He was about a foot taller than the doctor because he had to lift his head up to make eye contact. "Dr. Vishwas?" he asked. Yes, who's asking?" The doctor wasn't sure if he was an official because, honestly, he didn't look like one. The man had a very kind but soothing, strong voice. "Name's Arjun. I've come from the library to, It's okay. We're alone. You can talk." "Oh, good. Mansi sent me." Arjun seemed relieved. "Yeah, she called. Come with me." The doctor took Arjun to the morgue. As they entered, the cold prompted Arjun to go for his salt bomb, but then he realized it was just normal cold. He looked away to try and hide his embarrassment, but the doctor wasn't even looking. He was busy putting on gloves, and then he pulled a body out. It was Raj, pale, cold, and dead. "Male, 27. Been dead for a few days. The blood was removed surgically with a syringe. I found a needle mark on his right arm." Arjun clenched his jaws. "But you said to Mansi it was a vampire's job." "Yeah, I think so. Yes, well, I found this." The doctor pointed towards 2 small puncture wounds on Raj's neck. At first it looked like a snake bite or something like that, but the distance between them suggested a wider jaw. Arjun leaned in to take a closer look. He'd barely even looked at it when he pulled himself up, looked at the doctor and asked, "Tell me, doctor, how much do you know about vampires?" "Not much. Well, they hate sunlight and they drink human blood and, yeah, that's about it. Why do you ask?" "It wasn't a vampire." The doctor looked confused. "What? But then..." "Yeah, they don't bite. They rip their victim's throat apart. They have a different set of about 100 teeth, maybe more. This was not a vampire, and clearly whoever did this doesn't know about vampires either. Maybe they're trying to pass it off as a vampire." The doctor looked away in the air, thinking. "Then this must be it," he said to himself. "I'm sorry, what?" I also found traces of a chemical. I'm not sure what it is. I've sent it to the lab." Arjun nodded and then pointed at the body. "What do we know about him?" "Not much. Lived alone. No friends. Family is away too." "You said he was found in the river, so they tried to get rid of him. He wasn't meant to be found." The doctor thought this Arjun guy was pretty dumb, but he didn't say it. Instead, "Well, obviously. Why would they want him found?" "No, I mean, what if he isn't the only victim? Maybe he's just the one that we found." The doctor was now thinking that maybe he wasn't that stupid. He was the one feeling foolish, so he tried to distract himself from that thought. "Oh no, there had been others before." "What?" "Yes, these bloodless bodies have been washing up on the shore for quite a time. They could not be identified. Oh, wait." He went and came back with a few folders. He showed Arjun the pictures of the other bodies. They all had the same marks on their neck. "I don't get it. Why are we only hearing about this now?" Arjun asked. "Because I wasn't working here. I was just transferred here a few weeks ago. When this one arrived, they said, 'Oh, there's another one.' I asked, and they told me they'd found bloodless bodies before, but they could never identify them." Arjun must have come to a conclusion because he sighed and said, "Okay, thanks for your help." And he extended his hand. The doctor quickly removed the right glove and shook Arjun's hand. "I'm sorry I couldn't help more. I didn't know about vampires. Mansi never tells me anything." "Oh yeah, she does that." Arjun snickered. "I mean, don't get me wrong, she is a gentle soul, but She loves to play Dumbledore, never tells anyone anything. I didn't know about you until she told me. Don't think about it too much. Now you do know about vampires." He smiled. They both left the morgue. The doctor went back to his desk and Arjun to the door where he'd stopped, and turned back and said, "Oh, one more thing. Vampires don't hate sunlight. I mean, it's not the light, it's the heat they despise." And then he left the mortuary. When he walked out, he took out his phone and dialed a number. It rang and Mansi answered. "Hey," she said. "Hey there, just came back from the morgue. I looked at the bodies." "And?" "They drained the blood, but with a syringe. Though I did find bite marks on the bodies, but..." "But what?" she asked. "But they are not the bite marks of a vampire." "So what do you think?" Who's working the missing persons case?" "Why do you ask?" "There might be others whose bodies we never found. Might give us a clue, a link between the victims, a pattern." "Oh, call Dev. He'll help you." "Okay, I'll call you back if I find something." Arjun hanged up and dialed another number. He had urgency in his nerves. He wanted to do this before anyone else went missing, but he didn't know that he was already very late. Not very far from where Arjun stood in the street outside the mortuary, making a call to Inspector Dev, Nina and her family's next victim were playing with each other on the couch in their living room. Where's your mum and aunt?" he asked, looking around, hoping for something. "They're out." "We're all alone," Nina grinned. "Oh, great." He smiled too, because that's exactly what he'd been hoping for. He pushed Nina down on her back and started kissing her. Nina tried to push him away, but not too hard. "Whoa, what's your hurry, cowboy?" But he wasn't even listening. He'd already started pulling Nina's dress down, so she went along. She moved her lips down his neck and... He screamed. At first he didn't realize what was happening to him. He thought that Nina was just being too aggressive, but then he felt it. He felt the venom spreading through his veins and his muscles going stiff. He tried to move them, but couldn't. Nina pushed him on the floor, and he dropped like a mannequin. He heard a hissing, and then he saw two older women coming out of the kitchen, and the last thing he felt was the needle pushing through his arm. The last thing he saw was their smiling faces, their elliptical pupils, and their forked tongues. The next day Arjun went to Metro City College. He had already been to a few missing persons' houses in the list that Inspector Dev had given him. It was a scrimp warm noon of late November. He knocked on the door of a room of a college dormitory. Someone opened the door, and Arjun looked to see who it was. The boy must have been in his early 20s, but his beard was so thick he looked 40. His eyes were red as if he hadn't slept in forever. Arjun could smell alcohol on his breath, and the boy looked miserable. Arjun looked at him in pity. Ahmed?" Arjun asked. The boy didn't answer. He left the door open and walked in. Arjun didn't know what to do, so he followed and closed the door behind him. "Are you Ahmed Qureshi?" Arjun asked again. The boy snapped. "And who are you? Another reporter? Come here to help me? You're going to run too after listening to my story. Look, just leave faster than you arrived." Arjun calmly listened to him. When he was finished and was staring at him, grinding his teeth, he softly, slowly said, "I'm not a reporter. My name is Arjun Warrior." "Warrior?" Ahmed startled upon hearing his name. "Are you related to—" "Yes," Arjun spoke before Ahmed could even finish his question. "I'm his son. That's why I don't usually give out my last name." "Well, what are you doing here? What do you want?" "I'm searching for whoever took your friend." "Oh," Ahmed pretended to look amazed. "So you are a vampire hunter. Oh, look at you. Look at the great Arjun Warrior, son of the richest man in the country, bored of his life, his luxury, a freaking vampire hunter. Leaves at night to kill the Bloodsuckers. Well, boo-hoo. Sorry to burst your bubble, Bruce Wayne, but there are no vampires." Ahmed had lost it. He was enraged by the fact that Arjun had come here hoping he could actually play his game, that he had decided to ignore the fact that Ahmed had lost his best friend, his brother. He was also angry at himself to ever believe in such nonsense. He was angry because he saw himself in Arjun. They're not real. They never have been. Only if I could have brought myself to believe this earlier, my friend might still be alive. Leave, Arjun warrior. Leave the way you came. Leave before I call the police. Arjun silently watched Ahmed break down. He watched him crash to the floor. He watched him sob. He knew, however, that he could not feel his pain because he had never lost someone so close to him. Not like this, but he could understand his pain. He could understand that he had to be more than himself at this point. He had to be a brother. Ahmed. Arjun grabbed his arm, pulled him up, and sat him down on the bed. Then he took a seat on a chair and held Ahmed's face straight with his hands. Ahmed, look at me. Look at me. Ahmed looked into his small, fiery eyes. You were right. Vampires didn't take your brother. Yes, I know he was like a brother to you. They weren't vampires, but it doesn't mean that they were not real. Yes. He went on reading his expressions. They are real, and not just vampires. Everything you have or haven't heard about is real. Vampires, werewolves, ghosts, witches, monsters, everything. Everything is real. The world is covered in so much darkness, it's impossible to see them. There is so much evil in the world that no one can ever imagine. But it doesn't mean that you would throw away a beautiful thing, the only thing we have that they don't. Life. The beautiful gift of life. Faith, a noble cause. Love, compassion. A sense of being part of something bigger than us. A bond that ties us all. I know you've lost your best friend. I can never even begin to imagine what it feels like. Only you do, and if you don't want someone else to go through that, what you're going through right now, if you don't want someone else to lose their friend or family, please tell me everything you know and help me find who did this. Arjun let go of Ahmed's face, which was blank for another minute, but then an expression of disgust appeared on it. You don't have to find out who did it. I know already. It was that bitch. You just have to find out where she is. Who? Who was it? That bitch, Nina Kravosos. And then he went on to tell Arjun how he and his friend Vikram had met her in a club, how they became friends, how she took Vikram to have dinner with her mother and her aunt. He told him how she always purposely left Vikram's phone behind when she took him to her house, so its location history couldn't be traced to her house. He told him what happened the night he last saw his friend, and after that. He told him how no one had believed him, and how the only thing he ever found was a shoe that he'd given him as a present. When Arjun left, he didn't have any answers, but he had a name. Kravosos. The sun retired of the day, and the moon took its place in the black-purple sky. A few patches of clouds covered it as if it was a canvas, and they were trying to complete the painting, adding in more beautiful details. Though it was a pleasant evening, Mansi didn't look happy at all. She was tired and still working. She had a bunch of books opened on her desk, and she was scrutinizing them, looking for something. She only looked up because she heard someone on the front stairs. It was Arjun. He too was very tired, but not as much as Mansi, and he was about to see that. He climbed the stairs and entered through the huge door. He didn't have to struggle to find Mansi, which was usually the case because she was always somewhere in the basement, but not this time. The whole library was deserted, as usual. Only a few lights were on. It was awfully quiet. He looked to his right, and there she was. She had a small face, but a long, furrowed forehead. Long black hair, which was tied up in a ponytail with a hairband. Arjun knew that she did that when she was working. She'd also rolled up the sleeves of her top, and she was looking at him, but with big, tired eyes, and they had dark circles below them. Now, the thing with Arjun was that wherever he went, he always had his authoritarian look on his face, like he was in charge. That's just how he worked, but as soon as he laid eyes upon Mansi, that look vanished from his face because now Mansi had that look on hers. As soon as Mansi saw who it was on the stairs, she let out a soft, "Oh, it's you," and buried her head back into the books. Arjun slowly approached her desk. He opened his mouth to say something, but... "So, did you find anything?" Mansi asked. "Yeah," Arjun began, but he looked at the books on the desk. "Are you working a different case?" he asked, pointing at the pictures of the creatures on the books. Mansi looked up and sighed. She ran her hands down her face, and that's when Arjun saw her eyes, and he understood why she was avoiding eye contact. "Whoa, when was the last time you..." Arjun flicked his palm, bent his lips. "Slept." "Oh, God, I'm cold. The chemical found in the victim's body was a venom." "Oh, yeah, that makes sense since it's not a vampire, so I've been looking at every venomous, blood-sucking creature. No luck yet." "Whoa, you have to look. I thought you'd memorized every book in your library." Mansi narrowed her brows. "Funny. There are thousands of books, centuries of knowledge. Nobody could memorize it all. I only memorized the event log." "Yes, of course you did. Venom, huh? That doesn't really go with my theory." "You have a theory?" "Yeah, I mean, the way the blood was removed from the bodies. I thought maybe they're trying to preserve it for, you know." "You think it's a drug cartel from Crime City?" "Yeah, why not?" Arjun asked upon seeing the reaction on Mansi's face. "Well, could have been true, but there's one thing. We found the bodies intact. Even if they are selling human blood to vampires, why would they throw away a perfectly good body full of healthy organs? And I have a man there. Also, there's venom." "Yeah, I see that now." Arjun did not look disappointed. It wasn't the first time his theory turned out to be wrong. In fact, that happened more often, but he always had something else, something more, and so was the case this time too. I've got something else." "Yeah?" "Just a name. Kravosos." Mansi's face fell so quickly that Arjun didn't have time to wait for an answer. "What?" he asked. "No, it can't be. It's not possible." "What? Why is it not possible?" Mansi was thinking rapidly. Her pupils were moving left and right so fast Arjun thought she was having a seizure. Then she hurried back towards the door that led to the basement. Arjun followed. He was one of the few who were allowed to go down there. The basement was huge, and the insufficient lighting made it look even larger because some dark corners didn't seem to have an end wall. He climbed down the stairs right behind Mansi, who, as she was looking for the right shelf, spoke. "Kravosos literally means bloodsucker in Russian." She pulled out a book once she figured out which shelf it was on, and then she turned pages with an electric speed that Arjun started to worry that she might even rip a page or two. When she found the page, she put the book on one of the many wooden tables which practically filled the remaining space that was left by the ceiling-touching bookshelves, and turned on the lamp that sat on there, covered in dust. She pointed to an event log. "On January 16th, 1998, my father exterminated a family of dark wizards in Siberia. They were practicing dark magic with human blood and snake venom. My father wrote they were trying to remain young forever. They killed humans and drained their blood, which they would later drink after a ritual. The locals there called them Kravosos, which translates to bloodsucker. That's why I didn't think of it. It has no mention of themselves being venomous, and I thought they were all dead." Arjun read the log, and then he looked at Mansi, who was already waiting for him to finish reading. "You think they succeeded?" he asked. "Even if they did, it doesn't make any sense. My father killed them all. It says here, the head of the family, their 2 sons, and his brother." Arjun remembered the name. Nina Kravosos. "Only males. What about the females?" "It doesn't say." Arjun closed his eyes, sighed, and walked in a circle. He then looked at Mansi and said, "It's the remaining females of the family. They're practically mocking us by calling themselves Kravosos. Then he told her everything he'd learned from Ahmed. Everything about Nina Crevosos, her mother and her aunt. When he finished, they stood in silence for a full minute. "Okay, good job, Arjun. Really well done, like always. I'll take it from here." "What? What do you mean you'll take it? It's my case." "No, your job was just to find out who did this. I'll handle it now. I have trained exterminators." "Well, they were not born trained. I could train too if you just wouldn't take everything away." Mansi stared at him for a second. "Do you remember what happened last time?" "Well," Arjun looked embarrassed, "I took care of it." "You burned its whole body. I needed its skin." "Okay, but you don't need anything this time." They were throwing remark after remark on each other, one after another, without stopping. "I do. I need their venom to make an antidote for the other creature's venom." "So I'll bring some venom for you." "Don't be stupid, Arjun. They have super heightened senses." Arjun had already opened his mouth to say something, but he stopped, and then, after several seconds, he said, "Do they now?" "Yes. They'd hear your heartbeat from a kilometer away, and they'd smell you from even farther." Arjun contemplated this situation and, "In that case, you take care of it." "Thank you," said Mansi with relief. They both climbed the stairs back to the level. Arjun asked Mansi to get some rest, which she agreed to. He wished her good night and was about to leave when Mansi said to his back, "Don't worry, Arjun. We'll get them. We will." She said the last bit with a smile. She never did that to Arjun, but she considered him a friend, unlike others who were just colleagues to her. "Look, I know, Arjun stopped to say one last thing. "I just hope you get them before they get anyone else." And then he walked out. Mansi sent some of her best exterminators to the block where they'd pinpointed the location of the Crevosos family, based on the clubs where the victims were last seen and the riverbank where they were found. They scoured the block for about a week. They easily blended in with the people. They carried their equipment and weapons in normal-looking backpacks. Sometimes they would pretend to look for an address, asking people and local vendors, but they weren't even close enough. And about a week later, Nina brought in another one. It was a rather noisy evening, maybe because it was Friday, and everyone was rushing to get home faster. She unlocked the door of her apartment a few blocks away from where the exterminators were patrolling, turned the lights on, and welcomed in a young and tall but very shy boy. "Come on, Nick. You can leave your backpack by the door, or if you'd like, you can put it by the couch." Nick hesitated to come in, standing by the door. "Oh, come on, I didn't know you were this shy," Nina chuckled. "You're very sweet. Oh, come on." Nick finally entered. He'd just stepped into the living room when... "Oh, my God," he said, gaping at the stereo in the corner. "You have the Behringer MS-20. Whoa, this one's so much bigger than mine." He went on to unpack his backpack and reveal a smaller stereo set. "Oh, can I play something on it? Please?" Nina smiled. "Oh, be my guest. Can I get you something to drink?" When she turned, she said, "Nerd," under her breath. A few minutes later, a piece of nice romantic music was playing on the stereo when Nina pushed Nick onto the couch, the death seat. She was being impatient. She pulled him in closer to her and leaned in to kiss, but Nick pulled his head back. Oh, come on. No need to be shy." No, it's not that. It's just... Before we do this, shouldn't we, What? Come on, say it. Don't be shy," Nina said, smiling at him. Okay." Nick dropped the act. "Shouldn't we call your mum and your aunt?" Nina's smile vanished. She quickly threw herself away from the couch to a safe distance. Nick too stood up and smiled cheerfully. "I mean, isn't it rude just to leave them behind?" Nina made a hissing noise, and her face transformed. She now had elliptical pupils and a forked tongue. Her mother and her aunt came out too, One of them said, "Quick, close the door." "Oh, don't worry about it." Nick showed them a small shiny key and then put it back into his jeans, still smiling as wide as he could. "Who are you?" one of the older women asked. "Name's Arjun," he finally revealed. He couldn't control his smile because everything had worked out exactly as he had planned. "Do you remember the keeper that killed your family? I'm friends with his daughter. Oh, and she didn't say hello." "So you are one of them, huh? So today, after all these years, I'll finally avenge my husband and my sons." "I don't think so." "Kill him." Nina stepped forward cautiously. Arjun took a step back and... "Oh, come on, Nina. I thought we were having a moment. I even brought a present for you," he said, and reached into his pocket and pulled out what looked like a smoke bomb, but it wasn't one. He threw it on the floor, and a blinding flash of bright white light shot out of it, and Arjun turned his back just in time and closed his eyes. Well, the Creepen family wasn't prepared for this. They all screamed as the light was much too much for their eyes. They put their hands in front of their faces, rubbed their eyes, but nothing helped them to see again. "You think you've got us? Well, I could still smell you from kilometers away." "Ah, of course," replied Arjun, who was now looking for something in his backpack. "But you don't think I only brought a present for Nina, do you? I mean, that would be rude." He pulled out an automatic fragrance dispenser and turned it on. It started spraying rose fragrance everywhere, and within seconds the whole apartment started to smell of roses. Well, the three women were trying to find their way around in the living room. Nina's mother tripped once. The other woman, however, was trying to listen to Arjun breathe, or the beating of his heart. Arjun knew he didn't have long before they'd start to see again. "Oh, don't struggle, Nina's aunt. I did bring something for you too, but Nina already had so much bigger and better," he said as he turned the volume of the stereo to the top. The Creepen family now didn't have a chance. They put their hands to their ears. The attacks on their senses were unbearable. They all started crying and begging Arjun to stop. Arjun, on the other hand, put on headphones and was now dancing in the living room with an imaginary partner. Soon the smile on his face disappeared, though, and he channeled rage in his eyes. He reached in his backpack once more and pulled out a machete. He pulled it out of its sheath with a clenched jaw, not because it was difficult to pull it out. No, he clenched his jaw because he knew what he had to do next. The music stopped. The effect of the flash also started to wear off. The only thing left, though, was the rose fragrance, and just as the Creepen family opened their eyes, they saw the Grim Reaper in the form of a tall young man holding a machete in his hand and rage in his eyes. They all heard the machete slashing through the air. Only Nina heard it 3 times. It was not as serene a night, not calm or peaceful or lonely, but it was still a beautiful night. It was still a fresh, healthy and clear night. It was now really a night to take a walk on a long, lonely road, dimly lit by dingy streetlights and the sky filled with hundreds or thousands of stars twinkling as if they were giggling, maybe this time with a few patches of clouds. It was a lovely night. Mansi was waiting, still awake, in her pajamas, in the library when Arjun walked in, happy, cheerful, smiling and maybe taunting Mansi, but before she could say anything, before she could burst and take it all out on him, he showed her a duffel bag, which probably contained the severed heads of the Creepen family. "Got your venom," he declared. "How in the bloody hell did you find them?" You're welcome." "How? My exterminators were looking for them for an entire week." Pattern, Mansi, pattern. I mean, nothing against..." He raised his hands to do air quotes. "Your exterminators, but they are not detectives. I looked for a pattern and I found one. They were targeting loners, orphans, people who lived alone, people who no one would look for. Mansi completed Arjun's sentence. Exactly. I just went outside each of those bars and clubs and asked for donations for an orphanage. And she fell right for it. No one, Mansi. No one donated as much as a rupee. And she donated 500. Mansi was nodding without even realizing it. Well done. You did great. You proved yourself. I'm sorry that I doubted you. Well, you had your reasons. I couldn't bring that damn skin to make into your handbag. Mansi looked guilty. How did you... Oh, come on. Don't pretend like I haven't seen your collection. To be honest, I burned it partially on purpose. It was horrific skin. It would have looked awful as a handbag. They both let out a small burst of laughter. Then Mansi's phone started to ring. Oh, I'll see you later. Good night, said Arjun. Yes. Mansi replied and went on to answer her phone. Arjun walked out into the intoxicating night. He took a moment to look at the crescent moon, appreciating its aura. Some things are still beautiful despite being incomplete, he thought. Arjun. Arjun turned back. It was Mansi. She was climbing down the front stairs. New case? He asked. Yeah. What is it this time? By the looks of it. Mansi paused and said, Shapeshifters. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's your Friday evening's entertainment. Bloodsuckers. Not quite vampires, but pretty damn nasty all the same. Well, kind of a nice end to the story, but it also leaves it open for a sequel, I would suggest. What do you think? Thoughts, feelings, comments, anything you want to say in the comment section below. And as ever, I'll do my best to reply to as many as I can. Well, that's it for me for one Friday evening, but of course I'll be back again very, very soon. So until the next time, very, very sweet dreams, and bye-bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Really means a lot to me and to the author of the story, of course. Well, if you want to know more about me, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can download my music on SoundCloud. I've got a Patreon if you feel like. Throw me $1 or $2. Very much appreciated. And of course, on Reddit, I have a place where you can leave stories if you want me to read one that you've written. Well, hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams. Bye-bye.